When they mocked the maid's chubby daughter to dance, an inspiring surprise was revealed. Mia Garcia's heart sank as she made her way through the halls of Crestview High. Her classmates' whispers clawed at her, each cut revealing the harsh reality of who she was, the chubby daughter of a maid, an unwelcome shadow in a world of privilege. She felt their eyes on her, judging, mocking, a living testament to their unrelenting standards. The taunts buzzed around her like angry bees, amplifying the weight of her insecurities. She wasn't just a girl weighed down by her body, she was the embodiment of her mother's hard work, forever undermined by those who thought her worth was defined by wealth. The voices snarled in her mind, "Look at her, just a maid's daughter." The truth stung. She craved acceptance, a recognition that seemed always out of reach. As she hurried to her next class, she grappled with the internalized feelings of inadequacy that seemed to follow her like a ghost. What would it take to escape this whirlwind of fear? One day, after school, Mia walked the familiar, lonely path home, lost in her thoughts. Just as the weight of the day began to collapse on her, an elderly woman appeared by her side. It was Mrs. Hawthorne, the once-renowned ballet instructor whose mere presence carried an air of grace. Her sharp eyes pierced through Mia's facade, lingering on the flicker of passion hidden behind layers of hurt. "You have something special in you, dear," she said, drawing Mia's attention. Mia felt a spark ignite within her, an unexpected ember of hope. Mrs. Hawthorne offered to mentor her, to show her how to find her voice through dance. As the sessions unfolded, Mia learned to channel the negativity she had always felt into something powerful and beautiful. Gradually, she began to feel liberated, a sense of body positivity coursing through her veins that she'd never dreamed possible. But just as the taste of acceptance seemed sweet, her classmates' jealousy turned bitter. Their cruel jokes escalated, and whispers of humiliation filled the air as the talent show approached. Mia's passion for dance, her escape, became yet another target for their mockery. They branded her as an embarrassment, a hideous display of the maid's chubby daughter who thought she could dance. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mia stood before the mirror, rehearsing her routine, but the specter of their disdain gripped her tight. The impending performance loomed over her, and her mind raced with fears. What if they laughed? What if all she'd worked for crumbled in front of an audience? The pressure wrapped around her, a suffocating cloak of self-doubt. Yet, Mrs. Hawthorne's words echoed in her head, urging her to use that anguish as fuel, transform the negativity into art. The night of the talent show arrived, her heart was a thunderstorm, anxiety and anticipation tearing her apart. As she stepped on stage, the spotlight painted everything in harsh relief. Would this moment reveal her true self, or would it drown her in the very horrors she'd fought to escape? The music began to play, and Mia's world narrowed to a single point, the dance. She took a deep breath, ready to face the ridicule of her peers. But in that crucial moment, her mind screamed a sudden realization of vulnerability mixed with fierce determination. Would she break through or shatter apart? The tension tightened around her like a noose, leaving the audience and Mia on the brink of something monumental. What would happen when her story truly began to unfold? Mia felt the music pulse through her as she stepped onto the stage, and for that fleeting instant, nothing else mattered. Each note whispered promises of freedom, yet the heavy throb of anxiety threatened to drown her resolve. She fought back the laughter she imagined coming from the audience, visualizing their smirks concealed behind judging eyes. Would they see her? Would they feel the dedication she poured into every movement under the fragile surface of her insecurity? As she began to dance, her body found its rhythm, and with each step, she wove a tapestry of resilience. The fear that gripped her heart started to untangle, giving way to a raw, untamed energy that had long been stifled. Mia's feet seemed to whisper the passionate spirit within her, one that had long been silenced. She spun, leaped, and stretched, fighting against the voices that had taunted her for years. With every flourish, she transformed not just her movements but her internal dialogue. She discovered an unshakable truth, the power of self-acceptance. This stage, once a place of potential ridicule, became a sanctuary, a canvas she could paint with her expression. As she moved, she transcended the limitations others imposed on her, and in that moment, she stopped feeling like the maid's chubby daughter. She was Mia, an artist, a dancer, an individual worthy of applause, but as the dance reached its crescendo, a sharp glance from the crowd brought her back to harsh reality. Among the faces, she spotted Sarah, the queen bee of their school, a familiar smirk curling her lips. Sarah was a master at wielding social hierarchies as weapons, and it hit Mia like a slap. She couldn't allow her to define this moment. With fierce determination, she poured every ounce of her frustration into the final leap, allowing it to catapult her further than she ever thought possible. The music faded, her feet brushed against the stage one last time, and as she landed, the silence that followed felt electric like the calm before a storm. Then, as if her heart burst forth to rival the dimming lights, applause erupted. It was a wave that crashed over her, igniting her spirit and sparking something new within. The very audience that had once mocked her now clamored for more. A mixture of disbelief and exhilaration coursed through Mia as she took a bow, the roaring applause ringing in her ears. She was certain Sarah was fuming, but what others thought of her ceased to matter. She deliberated herself, and more importantly, she was seen. Yet even amid this victorious moment, doubts lingered like shadows. What would happen tomorrow, in the harsh light of day? The celebration felt ephemeral, like a firework explosion destined to fade. The whispers of her peers and the memory of their laughter still danced in the corners of her mind. Acceptance was one battle won, but the war of navigating these treacherous social waters loomed large. When she finally left the stage, Mrs. Hawthorne stood at the edge, her eyes twinkling with pride. "That was beautiful, Mia. How do you feel?" Mia hesitated. It was a question laden with depth. It felt freeing, but the weight of vulnerability gripped her again. Would this moment lead to another round of scrutiny, or perhaps a gradual metamorphosis in how her peers perceived her? Before she could finish, Mrs. Hawthorne nodded knowingly. "This is just the beginning. You must now harness this moment. What will you do next?" Mia pondered as the applause faded and reality settled back in. If she had inspired even a few to see past appearances, perhaps she couldn't stop now. How could she capitalize on this victory? As her mind whirled with possibilities, she looked back out toward the stage, where the echoes of her performance still lingered. The audience might not change overnight, but maybe, just maybe, she had the power to reshape her narrative. What could she create next, and what challenges lay ahead in the quest for acceptance? The next chapter of her journey awaited, full of choices that would test the newfound fire within her. Would she embrace the path ahead, or would fear pull her back into the shadows? Mia stood backstage, the thunderous applause still echoing in her mind, a halcyon symphony that was slowly morphing into something more complex. Excitement whirled within her, but the gnawing uncertainty also clawed at her heart. She had tasted acceptance but wondered how long it would last. What would her classmates think when the initial thrill wore off? As she stepped away from the curtains, she caught sight of her reflection in the dimly lit hall mirror. She looked disheveled, hair slightly askew, sweat dampening her brow, but her eyes sparkled with something new, something unfurling just beneath the surface. In that moment, she saw not just a dancer, but a woman awakening to her own power. Finding a quiet corner, she rummaged through her phone and queued up the video of her performance. With each replay, she noticed the subtle beauty in every step she had taken, the way she had commandeered the stage. Yet, a nagging thought broke through: what if this was a fleeting moment? Her heart sank, determined not to linger in doubt. She made a resolution. She would harness this experience, a spark to ignite her passion further. Perhaps enrolling in dance classes beyond school, or even auditioning for local performances. The prospect filled her with invigorating possibility. Mia took a deep breath and typed out a text to her friend Emily, a confidant who had always encouraged her love for dance. "Hey, can we talk? I have an idea." The response was immediate, a flurry of excited emojis punctuating her screen, reinforcing that she wasn't alone in this. With new resolve fueling her, Mia left the back of the stage and headed toward her classmates. They were still engaged in light chatter, laughter mingling with the residual joy of her performance. The moment she stepped into view, however, their attention shifted, and all eyes turned toward her. A knot twisted in her stomach, a cold sweat trickling down her back. Would they greet her with admiration, or was there another sharp cut of ridicule lurking? She steadied herself, recalling the weight of the applause, knitting it into her resolve like a shield. "Mia! That was incredible," shouted one of her classmates, and with that, several others joined in exuberant praise, lifting her spirits sky high. Amidst the bubbling energy, she spotted Sarah leaning against the wall, her expression inscrutable. Would she still attempt to wield her power over Mia? But instead of feeling the familiar pang of fear, Mia approached with confidence and purpose. "Thanks, everyone," she said, her voice steady. "I want to keep this momentum. I'm thinking of taking more dance classes and possibly auditioning locally. If you guys want to join, let us do it together." A ripple of hushed conversation cascaded through the group, eyes darting between her bold declaration and each other. Mia felt a part of her strengthen, her vulnerability transforming into tenacity. Could she really inspire them? Could this be a turning point? But as the pleasantries continued, Sarah's smirk resurfaced, a tight-lipped flicker that tamed the excitement in the room. "Oh, is that your new dream, Mia? Dancing? How adorable." The words felt like a punch, but Mia noticed her hands trembling. She wouldn't let Sarah's venomous taunts crush her spirit. This was her moment, and she had to confront the looming specter of judgment. "What's wrong with that? Everyone has dreams, and I'm going to chase mine now," she replied, fighting to keep her voice steady. Perhaps this was the confrontation she had been avoiding. The air became thick with tension, with Mia standing firm, a shift in her demeanor igniting sparks of intrigue in some. Would she allow herself to be defined by one person's opinion? As her classmates exchanged glances, Mia felt the weight of the air around her change. This wasn't merely about dance, it was about self-definition, a battle against negativity she wouldn't lose. The pulsating rhythm of the day's earlier performance returned to her, echoing deeper than the sting of Sarah's words. In that moment, Mia recognized the importance of creating a narrative rooted in her own values, and the stakes of what lay ahead. Where would this newfound courage lead her? The next few days promised uncertainty and perhaps another confrontation, yet Mia felt ready, the flicker of determination igniting anew. The real question that loomed on the horizon felt less daunting now but charged with potential. Would she learn to navigate this challenging new chapter while carving out her identity? The following day, Mia awoke with a sense of urgency that ignited her spirit. The sun streamed through her window, casting warm light across her room, illuminating the scattered remnants of her performance, a ballet-themed poster clinging to the wall, her worn dance shoes by the door. They served as cheerful reminders of what she had accomplished and what still lay ahead. Today would be different. Today, she would actively pursue her dreams instead of letting them simmer quietly in her mind. After a quick breakfast, Mia grabbed her phone and scrolled through dance studios nearby, each click flashing a new world of possibilities. The thought of entering a fresh environment filled her with both excitement and trepidation. She pondered what it would mean to step outside her comfort zone, to immerse herself in something she had always longed for. With a steadying breath, Mia set up a meeting at a local dance studio known for its diversity in styles, everything from jazz to contemporary. As she arrived, nerves surged through her. The building's exterior was unassuming, but once inside, the vibrant energy electrified her senses. Laughter bubbled from a nearby studio where a group of dancers crafted graceful lines, their bodies moving as one. Mia found herself drawn into the atmosphere, her heart racing with anticipation. She settled into a waiting area, glancing at the framed photographs of past performances that adorned the walls. Each image captured a moment of vibrant expression, of transformation, the very essence of the art form she loved. Soon, she realized the power this place had to mold not just skilled dancers, but also individuals willing to confront their fears. Moments later, an instructor entered, a tall woman whose presence exuded both warmth and authority. "Welcome. I'm Danielle, and I'm thrilled to have you here. What brings you to our studio?" she asked, her voice smooth like the music that filled the air. Mia hesitated, the vulnerability of her aspirations threatening to surface. "I want to grow as a dancer and to audition for local performances. I've just started realizing how important this is for me," she said, surprising herself with the clarity of her intention. Danielle smiled, her encouragement palpable. "That's wonderful. Growth comes from both the hard work and courage to confront yourself. Together, we can explore your passion." As the class began, Mia found herself swept into a whirlwind of movement. With every combination, she felt a confidence that had remained dormant breaking free, emerging from the depths of her determination. She struggled initially, but the excitement pushed her to push through the discomfort. Each new step seemed to chip away at the lingering remnants of self-doubt, filling Mia with resilience. After the session, exhilaration coursed through her. Visiting the studio had become not just a stepping stone toward her goals but a catalyst for self-discovery. Walking home, she reflected on what had transpired. Overcoming her fears didn't mean eliminating them, rather, she was learning to acknowledge and wield them as motivational tools, forging a new identity that conflated her past struggles with her present aspirations. The reality of Sarah's harsh words still lingered, but Mia reevaluated their sting. Could they be reframed? Perhaps they represented an external doubt that she could push against instead of internalizing. She refused to allow Sarah's ridicule to define her path. Today marked a shift. She now understood that every remark was merely an obstacle to overcome. As days turned into weeks, Mia continued to cultivate her skills, joining more classes and meeting incredible mentors. Each interaction crystallized her vision, guiding her toward further opportunities. She began diligently preparing for an upcoming local audition for a community theater troupe, and with each practice, her confidence swelled. However, as the audition date neared, the lurking specter of anxiety resurfaced. Would her resilience hold firm in the face of judgment and potential rejection? The smell of failure was intoxicating, more so than the aroma of achievements that could come from stepping onto that stage. With every choice she made, Mia stood at a crossroads, each decision echoing with the weight of her aspirations. Would she allow fear to diminish her? Would she fully step into the light after living for so long in the shadows? As the audition call ricocheted in her mind, the pivotal moment loomed closer, and the tension around her intensified. Could she summon the courage to embrace her identity, despite the doubts swirling in her wake? The answer felt like a delicate secret waiting to unfurl. In the quiet of the night, amidst her worries, Mia wondered, if she finally found that stage, would it transform her not just as a dancer, but as an individual ready to fully embrace her truest self? Mia paced her small apartment as the day of the audition approached, her heart thrumming with a volatile mix of excitement and dread. The mirror reflected her nervous energy, her breathing felt erratic as she rehearsed her piece, reliving every note and every step in increments. Despite the confidence she had built over the past weeks, she felt fragile, as if a single comment could shatter her resolve. With her phone clutched tightly, Mia found herself scrolling through social media, looking at clips of dancers she admired. Their elegance and poise seemed otherworldly. Were they also haunted by self-doubt? Probably not, she thought, her mind turned judgmental, spiraling into an abyss of comparison. They had a clarity she felt she lacked. Danielle's words echoed in her mind, reminding her that growth required vulnerability. Yet here she was, ensnared in her own fears, questioning if she possessed the requisite talent to even step on that stage. Could she transform her anxieties into art, or were they destined to drain her energy? That evening, she dragged herself to the studio for one last practice before the audition. The familiar warmth enveloped her as she entered. The room pulsed with laughter and energy, reminding her of why she was there. Each beat of the music filled the space, charging her body with renewed purpose. As the class began, Mia resolved to channel every ounce of apprehension into her movements. Each ply, each arabesque became a conduit for her inner turmoil, a messy amalgamation of hope and uncertainty. The more she danced, the more clarity emerged. She began to realize that her fears were not just obstacles but integral parts of her story. Those tremors of inadequacy could coalesce into something beautiful if she allowed herself to be vulnerable. In that moment, every stumble and misstep was no longer a mark of failure but a part of the journey. Beautiful, Mia. Breathe into it. Danielle called out during the class, pulling her from her introspection. The acknowledgement flickered something inside her. Was the fear of judgment overshadowed by the exhilaration of self-expression? She leaned into that feeling, lost in the rhythm, moving with unfettered enthusiasm as if the room had transformed into her own personal stage. After class, Danielle approached Mia, her eyes reflecting genuine warmth. I see your determination. The stage isn't just about perfection, it's about conveying your truth. Remember that when you audition. The words ignited a spark within Mia, illuminating the pathway ahead. She might not be perfect, but her story, her journey was uniquely hers. Walking home, the weight of her worries began to lift. Thoughts of Sarah's mockery clashed with a new sensation, one of empowerment. Yes, she grappled with fear, but maybe it was time to redefine that relationship. What if she embraced failure as part of her narrative, using it to fuel her drive rather than stifle it? With each passing hour, her resolve hardened. The thought of auditioning no longer felt like a punishment but rather an opportunity to share her story, to connect with others through the universal language of movement. She could dance, not just for the approval of others, but to honor her own evolution. As she drifted off to sleep that night, her heart raced with the reality of what lay ahead. Would the stage indeed shine a light on the truths she had unearthed? Or would she succumb to the very fears she aimed to conquer? The next morning, Mia stood before the mirror, practicing her routine one final time. The reflection staring back was no longer just a dancer afraid of judgment, but a young woman ready to step into her own narrative. She felt empowered, almost magnetic. The stage awaited her, and perhaps, just perhaps, it would be the moment that defined her. That afternoon, as she made her way to the audition, every heartbeat resonated with possibility. Would she transform her insecurities into strength, or would she face another chapter of doubt? The exhilarating uncertainty enveloped her, capturing the essence of what it truly meant to be human. With a deep, steadying breath, Mia entered the audition room. The time had come to face her deepest fears and rise above them. She might just have the chance to reveal not just her skills as a dancer, but the essence of who she had become. But would her courage withstand the weight of the moment? Would she finally embrace her identity as Mia the dancer, rather than the girl defined by others? The stage awaited, and she was only steps away from uncovering the truth. The bright lights of the audition room enveloped Mia as she stepped inside, casting a stark light on her vivid thoughts and emotions. The air was thick with purpose, punctuated by conversations and nervous laughter swirling around her. She felt like a stranger in her own body, an observer in a world where everyone else seemed to have a clear command of their respective narratives. Mia took a moment and scanned the space, noting other dancers warming up. Some stretched with long, elegant lines, while others appeared relaxed, jokingly whispering among themselves. An initial sense of camaraderie began to bubble within her. These were her people, driven by the shared love of dance and expression. Yet, an inkling of doubt still crept in. She questioned if she truly belonged in this world. As her turn approached, she stood alone in a corner, heart racing, rehearsing her piece in her mind. The moment felt surreal. She could feel the gravity of her thoughts pulling her back to the fears she had cultivated, like a well-worn path in her memory. Reminders of past failures, of her stumbles and moments of ridicule threatened to rise and choke the air from her lungs. But then, she recalled Danielle's encouragement. The stage isn't just about perfection, it's about conveying your truth. Wasn't this her truth? Her struggles, vulnerabilities, and growth. This was precisely what she needed to channel. The voice of self-doubt, once deafening, now transformed into a whisper. Perhaps the members of the panel needed to see her as she was, raw, imperfect, and uniquely her. When called to center stage, Mia felt time slow. The world around her faded, and she concentrated on the music beginning to play a soft piano melody that resonated deep within her. She took a deep breath, feeling the air fill her lungs with purpose. Instead of executing perfect movements, Mia allowed each motion to arise from a place of honesty, tapping into the emotional landscape she had traversed. Her feet moved instinctively, no longer burdened by the fear of judgment. As she twirled and leaped, she became acutely aware of how her insecurities melded with her dance, a whisper of her past grounding her in the present. Every ply had a backstory, every stretch echoed her tenacity. The movements flowed from her body as if they were memories, not just steps to impress. She made a choice to become the embodiment of her journey, harnessing not just her skill but her story. With each note, she felt alive, shedding the layers of doubt until she was just Mia, the dancer, the storyteller. The music built to its climax, and she reached the peak of her performance, a moment suspended in time where all her fears collectively dissipated. As the final notes lingered in the air, she stood still, letting the silence speak. Only then did she fully grasp the transformative journey she had embarked upon. Transitioning from a girl shrouded in self-doubt to a woman exuding confidence, she had claimed the stage as her own. Applause erupted, vibrant and thunderous, filling the room with electricity. But unlike in past performances, the accolades felt less about seeking approval and more about sharing a moment of vulnerability. A rush of triumph surged through her, however, as she stepped off the stage. Mia's heart raced anew, kicking up an uncertain flutter. This victory felt monumental, yet it was also reflective of greater battles to come. Would this newfound clarity persist, or would she fall back into familiar patterns of doubt and criticism? A voice from the panel resonated through the air. "Mia, we delight to see you again," offering her both a lifeline and a challenge. As she reversed her exit, the question lingered: was she equipped to nurture the courage she had kindled within, or would fear resurface and tether her again? As she prepared to leave, Mia knew this was just the beginning. The stage had indeed illuminated some truths about herself, but could she sustain this momentum in the whirlwind of expectations and pressures that lay ahead? The next chapter of her journey awaited, rife with possibilities and uncertainties. Would she rise to meet them? Mia stood outside the audition room, a mixture of anticipation and dread weaving through her thoughts. The praise from the panel hung in the air, intoxicating yet heavy with the weight of expectation. Flashes of that performance replayed in her mind as if she were watching a movie of her own triumph, her body moving with newfound grace, each gesture a testament to her journey. But she was all too aware that this was merely a stepping stone, a flicker of light that could easily be extinguished by self-doubt. As she exited the building, the bustling energy of the city washed over her. The vibrant atmosphere felt different now, bright and charged, as if her very presence had changed the urban landscape. Yet, she knew these streets still held the voices of her past, the echoes of doubt that had once wrapped around her like a heavy cloak. Every lingering thought challenged the resilience she had found on stage. That feeling of freedom seemed a fragile armor against the harsh realities that awaited. Days passed, and Mia dove headfirst into rehearsals, her schedule now filled with the promise of progress. Each session was a battleground where her fears would rear their heads in the form of relentless comparisons to her peers. She noticed how effortlessly her classmates executed advanced techniques, their bodies appearing to maneuver like water. Each time she stumbled, her heart sank. The chubby girl from the suburbs felt like an imposter among these graceful swans. To counter these waves of intimidation, Mia decided to set a plan for herself, one that would test her resolve and push her boundaries. She started researching various dance styles, seeking inspiration from genres that resonated with her spirit. While contemporary ballet remained her foundation, she found herself drawn to hip-hop, a stark contrast in style, but one that radiated authenticity and power. This exploration became a personal mission of discovery rather than a pitfall of comparison. The first hip-hop class felt like stepping onto foreign ground. The rhythmic beats pulsed through her, energizing her in a way she hadn't expected. The instructor was fierce, a powerhouse of encouragement who made no room for doubt. In this environment, she slowly learned to let go of the need for perfection. Each awkward movement was abstract but potent, and with each step, she learned to embrace the journey, rather than focus on the destination. With each passing class, Mia felt herself grow both as a dancer and as an individual. The physical exertion shattered the mental barriers she'd built, allowing raw emotion to flow freely. Her confidence expanded, revealing hidden competencies she hadn't known existed. Hip-hop demanded not just skill but an attitude, one that Mia began to embody. But this newfound confidence didn't come without its challenges. Conversations with peers regularly turned to the upcoming showcase, a performance that would draw attention from notable instructors. Whispers in the locker room hinted at elite dancers and elite choices, sparking fear that clutched at her insides. As the showcase approached, the pressure mounted, and the inner voice of doubt returned, loud and accusatory. What if she failed to impress? Would she revert to her former self, her past teasing, and isolation? Surrounded by a sea of talent, Mia faced a stark choice. Would she allow her fears to guide her decisions, or would she confront and harness them, once and for all? The battle in her mind intensified as showcase night drew closer. As the stage loomed near, Mia prepared to perform amid self-questioning and an undeniable flicker of excitement. The whispers of her past and possibilities of the future tangled with each other in her mind like dancers preparing for their cue. A decisive moment was fast approaching. The time had come to decide whether she would reclaim her power or retreat into the shadows of doubt once more. The night of the showcase arrived, and as she stepped backstage, a familiar voice echoed in her mind. The stage isn't just about perfection, it's about conveying your truth. Could she truly honor that now? Would this be the moment she would rise or fall? In the stillness backstage, she took a breath, feeling the vibrations of the audience on the other side of the curtain. Something within her stirred, ready to break free. Mia took a deep breath, her heart racing as the lights of the stage glowed brighter with each passing second. This was at the moment when her soul would spill forth through movement. She stepped onto the stage, her body trembling not just from nerves but from the surge of energy that radiated through her. This wasn't merely a performance, it was an unveiling of her true self. As the music enveloped her, she felt the familiar tension blanket her again, but this time, it was different. Mia had fought hard to carve out a place in the world of dance, and instead of surrendering to that paralyzing fear, she embraced it as part of her artistry. Each note became a pulse within her, compelling her to express everything she had learned, every struggle, every moment of self-doubt, every dance class where she had felt like an outsider. In the beginning, she let the movement carry her. The choreography was fluid, a blend of hip-hop's unapologetic veracity and the grace of ballet she clung to as a foundation. What had once felt like two conflicting worlds began to harmonize in her body. The audience faded into the background, all that mattered was the rhythm guiding her, just as life had guided her journey thus far. Mia remembered the words of her fierce hip-hop instructor about finding strength in vulnerability. She channeled that vulnerability, allowing her body to tell the story of a chubby girl who had transformed into a confident woman. Every twirl was an assertive declaration of her worth. Each step was an invitation for others to see her flaws, and all. As she transitioned seamlessly into powerful freestyle moments, the fear that had once choked her began to dissipate. The expressions of her classmates and the audience morphed from judgment to intrigue. Their eyes widened, she could feel it, the energy in the room shifted. No longer was she a background figure, she was a protagonist in her own right, a dancer paving the way for those who felt unseen. But this performance was more than proving herself to the audience, it was about confronting her own history. With every electric move, she pictured those who had once mocked her, the words that had stung like daggers, echoing in her mind. The weight of their ridicule transformed from a burden into a challenge, igniting a fire within her chest. She pivoted sharply, breaking the mental shackles that had once tied her down. As the final notes of the song faded, Mia struck her last pose, a confident stance, arms outstretched, head held high. The air was thick with silence before it erupted into a thunderous applause. The validation surged inside her, but it was more than external acceptance, it was validation from within. She had reclaimed her power. After the performance, as she caught her breath backstage, relief washed over her. Mia understood that what she had achieved was only the beginning. Dancers and instructors approached her with admiration, their words again vibrating with praise. But beyond the accolades, there was something deeper. She reveled in their acknowledgement of her authenticity, a testament to her evolution. Yet, as the evening unfolded, doubt lingered at the edges of her newfound triumph. Would this feeling last once the spotlight dimmed? What if she slipped back into her doubts when faced with future challenges? The question loomed like a shadow. As she prepared to leave the venue, she spotted her instructor waiting. He motioned her over, his expression serious yet encouraging. "You impressed everyone out there, Mia. But you haven't scratched the surface of what you can do. There's more in you waiting to be unleashed." Her heart raced again, this time not from fear but from adrenaline-pumped anticipation. What lay next? Could she really plunge deeper into this newfound resolve? The promise of growth lingered in the air, and as she stepped out into the cool night, she felt a stirring within. If this was just the beginning, what awaited her on the horizon? The adventure was just beginning, beckoning her with the thrill of the unknown. Mia's heart thrummed with anticipation as her instructor's words echoed in her mind. The world around her faded into a soft blur, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the performance was merely a prologue to something greater. She found herself standing outside, the night air crisp and awakening, and for the first time, she felt an exhilarating sense of possibility that dared her to step even further into the unknown. Each step away from the venue felt heavy with the weight of potential. Could she truly unlock more of herself in ways she had yet to explore? The prospect sent shivers down her spine, igniting a flicker of determination. She had finally begun to embrace her vulnerability, and now, without realizing it, a new challenge lay ahead. In the following days, Mia dedicated herself to honing her craft. The mirror in the studio became her confidant as she practiced tirelessly. She recorded herself, scrutinizing every move, unearthing flaws she hadn't noticed before. Despite her success, she found herself searching for perfection, craving improvement beyond what she had already achieved. Each followed step demanded more focus, which bred both excitement and frustration, particularly during the late nights when weariness tugged at her resolve. One evening, after an exhausting session, she collapsed onto the studio floor, panting and spent. Dancing had always been an escape, but now it felt like a constantly moving target. She faced the bitter realization that despite her advancements, she was stumbling into uncharted territory. The feeling of inadequacy began gnawing at her, a reminder that growth often danced alongside discomfort. In that moment of vulnerability, a revelation crashed over her, a deep-seated truth she had wrestled with for years. Mia sat up, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Why did she feel compelled to chase perfection? There was no finite endpoint to her artistry. In pursuit of validation, she had lost sight of her essence. Her journey from a timid girl to a confident dancer shouldn't be defined by benchmarks. Each moment was an integral part of her evolving narrative. Restlessness shifted into clarity, and a fierce desire ignited. She would transform her torturous self-critique into fuel for creativity. Instead of battling her insecurities, she resolved to embrace them, letting each imperfection shape her artistry. Mia stood up, turning to face the mirror once again, a sense of purpose radiating from within. The following week, she decided to explore different styles of dance, opening herself up to the unconventional. As she transitioned between genres, something remarkable began to unfold. Inspiration seemed to swirl through her movements, ancient and contemporary influences coalescing into a vibrant tapestry that was uniquely her own. The new styles spoke to something deeper within her, and she felt the energy of each dance blend seamlessly with her identity, a beautiful amalgamation that made her feel whole. Yet, despite the joy this exploration brought, Mia could not shake one lingering nightmarish shadow from her past manifested during her improvised sessions. The mocking laughter of those who had belittled her echoed in her mind, trying to haunt her with meticulous precision. How could the girl who once flinched at harsh words challenge the very voices that had attempted to drown her? A storm brewed inside her, feeding the fire of determination. If she was going to confront this, it would have to be head-on. It was time to expose herself not only through performance but also by returning to the heart of her experiences, the vulnerabilities that formed her resilience. A pivotal moment awaited. She needed to reclaim the narrative. As a plan began to form, the anticipation surged again, leaving her breathless. The stage would soon be hers again, but the next performance would be unlike any she had done before. It was a canvas waiting to be painted in all aspects of her journey. As she prepared for the challenge ahead, Mia felt a flicker of doubt emerge alongside her renewed resolve. What if the past was too powerful to overcome? The question lingered like a chilling whisper, teasing her as she planned her next performance. An unknown awaited, both thrilling and terrifying. Would she rise to the occasion, or would the ghosts of her past prove too formidable? The embers of uncertainty flared within her, preparing her for a confrontation she could no longer avoid. The moment was drawing near. Mia stood backstage, her heart pounding with excitement and anxiety. The glow of the spotlight outside the curtain beckoned her, illuminating not just the stage but the path she had forged through her journey, a journey of transformation, self-acceptance, and resilience. She was ready to confront her fears, to take ownership of her narrative, and to declare to the world that Mia, the dancer, was no longer just a shadow of her past. As her name resonated over the loudspeakers, she felt a surge of empowerment wash over her. The stage was not merely a platform for performance, it was a sacred space where she would reclaim her identity. The emotional weight of her experiences blanketed her, urging her to move with purpose. Breath deepened, and she felt her body respond, alive and vibrantly present, ready to break free from the chains of judgment. The music struck with a pulsating energy, each beat echoing her resolve, igniting the hidden fires within her. She began to dance not just to impress, but to share the full story of Mia. Each movement conveyed a spectrum of emotions, and with every pirouette or pop, she transformed vulnerabilities into powerful expressions. She pushed past her insecurities, infusing her dance with the essence of every laugh, every whisper, and every scar that had tried to define her. The audience watched, mesmerized, as Mia poured herself into the performance. She felt their presence and energy envelop her like a warm embrace, and for the first time, the laughter of her past became a distant memory. She twirled and leaped with a grace that showcased not just her athletic ability but also her profound emotional journey. With each step, she rewrote her story, leaving behind the notion of being the Maid's chubby daughter and stepping fully into her identity as a powerful, confident performer. As she reached the routine's climax, Mia seized the moment to express her truth. She executed a final leap, suspended in the air for what felt like an eternity, embodying not just the culmination of her choreography but also the culmination of her growth. Landing with poise, the applause erupted like fireworks, a thunderous affirmation that resonated deep within her. But what truly mattered was not only the audience's roaring approval but the acceptance she felt for herself. As she took her final bow, the echoes of her past fears faded, supplanted by a newfound strength and purpose. She had conquered more than just a performance, she had confronted the shadows that had long haunted her. Standing together backstage after, her instructor, Danielle, beamed with pride. "You've once again shown a remarkable evolution, Mia. You're not just a dancer, you're an artist, someone who captivates through vulnerability. Keep pushing those boundaries." Mia's heart swelled with gratitude. The words were more than validation, they were a recognition of her triumph over adversity. She realized that the courage she had summoned on stage could be harnessed beyond dance. She could approach every facet of her life with the same spirit, chasing dreams, embracing vulnerability, and continually transforming challenges into opportunities for growth. Leaving the venue, the city teemed with potential, the streets pulsing with possibility. As Mia looked towards the future, she understood that this was not merely the culmination of her story but the inception of many more unexplored chapters. She had proven herself, not only to others but to herself, becoming an embodiment of resilience, authenticity, and empowerment. This was just the beginning. With the rhythm of her heart guiding her forward, Mia was prepared to embrace her identity fully, transforming her passion for dance into a lifelong journey of self-discovery. From the shadows, she had emerged a dancer in every sense, fiercely proud of who she was and ready to spread her wings. She was no longer just someone fighting to be seen, she was a beacon, illuminating the way for others who battled their own burdens. Mia had finally become the star of her own story, ready to shine. Subscribe immediately. to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.